Push broadcast. Oh, you did it. Okay.
Oh, I just grabbed it. Okay, cool. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Jake AMA. If you're on Zoom, what's going on, everyone? I highly encourage you, if you're on Zoom or on LinkedIn, I want you to drop your role. And you know what? Because we're going to talk about career, drop whatever you feel is interesting. If you want to drop me your role and what you're thinking about, how you want to think about your career, you're trying to get a new role, drop in there a little bit of like context here. We're going to be doing basically 100% Q&A today. And let me tell you about this topic in particular. You know, for me, what I saw is a lot of, I've put out a lot of content around this as well too. So and maybe even Kara, Shelby, if we can maybe link to that post that I did a video, I think it was like 2 Mondays ago, about like standing out in your job search, where I'll show you guys what I talked about too. But again, this session is all about career advice. And so I'll spend a little bit of the time talking about my career and why I'm either qualified or not qualified to talk about this. And you know, what I want to do is, again, a lot of Q&A. If you're actively looking for a job or you're really trying to get promoted, please just drop in like a little question. Hey, Jake, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's where I'm at. And I'm going to try to get very, very tactical today. What's going on, Gerard? Happy Monday to you as well. Happy Monday to all of you. So let's hop in. So I'll tell you a little bit about my career. And I'll tell you about how I got the jobs that I got. And I think this is going to be a really interesting career story to help all of you understand how I got the roles that I got throughout my career. So again, if you're on the Zoom, let's start lighting up the chat a little bit. Help me to understand who you are, where you're from. If you're on LinkedIn, same thing. Just drop it in the comments, maybe your role, what you're up to. And you know, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. So for me, I went to school, Missouri State, very prestigious school in Springfield, Missouri. It used to be called Southwest Missouri State, but there were 20,000 students. So it's not quite as small as it sounds, right? You hear Southwest Missouri State, you're like, that's just completely, you know, regional. But no, now it's Missouri State. So anyway, went to school. I took a long time and did sales when I was in college, did telemarketing. And but I majored in entertainment management with a focus on sports. I really wanted to go into sports. And so I got an interview with the Tampa Bay Rays, then known as the Devil Rays. And I'll tell you what happened is I had a professor, and I don't quite remember how it happened. But I looked everywhere for it, and I know I have it somewhere in like storage. What's up, Jennifer Moore? Sales and account management, tech startups, background, Austin, Texas. I'm also in Austin, represent Austin. I actually got out this morning. I went to Soul Cycle this morning, and that was fun. Downtown is still the exact same. There was this dude with no shirt on kicking over scooters. That was pretty interesting. Back to what it did. So what this guy told me to do, and I did it for my second job too, if you all can see this. It says, how do you sell hockey in the Arizona sun? Is he said, Jake, you know what you need to do when you show up for that interview? Show up with a business plan. So when you're going to Tampa, you're going to the Rays, show up with a business plan. I was like, damn, that's like a really, really good idea. Like maybe I should do that. So I did it. So I showed up with a little dossier, a little like 5-page business plan. And I talked about how I was going to sell tickets, and it was a group sales job. So I went and looked at demographics and big groups in Tampa and St. Pete. And I put together a plan. I said, look, so when I start, I'm going to target, I think it was like, I'm going to target the Hispanic market. Here's why. I'm going to target like this downtown partnership group. Here's why. And I put together a plan in advance. And so when I rolled into that thing, I said, okay, great. So here's what I'm going to do in my first like 60 days. These people were like, what is this? Nobody did that. Nobody was coming to them with a plan. Nobody was doing it. So I got the job, right? So I got the job. I got promoted very, very quickly. So I was in Tampa for 1.5 years. I moved from group sales to season ticket sales in 6 months. I moved to senior account executive, one of just 2 senior account executives in the entire sales organization within the first year. And then me and another guy took over managing and building out the inside sales team in my first 1.5 years out of college. And I'm not telling you that for, I don't know. I'm telling you that for reasons that I'm going to talk about why I got promoted so quickly. Okay. There's a couple of main reasons why I got promoted so quickly early on in my career. The first thing is I was a student of the game of the next job that I wanted, right? And so for all of you that are out there, if you're not starting to build the skills today for that VP job, the director, going into sales from sales development, going from account management to being a senior account manager or director of CS, if you're not thinking about those skills and building those today, you're going to keep getting passed over. So what was I doing? I was reading books about season ticket sales. I was reading other sales books. I was up in my sales acumen. I was looking at my data. I was starting to flip some of my group people into buying season tickets. And so that's what a lot of people don't realize, that you don't just get magically picked and then someone's like, figure it out. You got to start to prepare for that opportunity. So when the opportunity comes, you're ready. And so if you're currently employed, again, this is what I would think about is, are you preparing for the next role today? And guess what? Maybe that's outside of your 9 to 5. Maybe that's you're reading books at night. You're doing whatever it is you need to do. But I'm telling all of you, if you're not doing that, if you're not preparing, right? If you're not thinking about those next steps, if you're not thinking about what happens next, then you don't know where you're going, right? So again, what's up, Pam Myers, Chris Nichols? What's going on, everyone? Appreciate it. We've got some questions starting to come in. Again, drop your questions. Hey, I'm here. I'm going to here. Let me know what you want to do. All right, here we go. My man Greg dropped a good one. So that was the first part of my career. Then, look, I was a punk. Let's just call it what it is. I thought I was God's gift at a certain point at Tampa. And so I'll tell you a very funny story. I didn't feel appreciated, right? I'm like, I am killing it. I am doing this. And I didn't feel appreciated. And, there's probably some truth to it, but also probably I was just my own ego. So I went to Phoenix, I interviewed for a job in Phoenix, and guess what I did, guys? I brought a business plan, right? I brought a plan for how I was going to sell hockey in Arizona. This is what it is. I wrote a whole section on competing against the Phoenix Suns for budget. I brought this to an interview. It was a group interview with 35 other people. 35 other people in the group interview. One person got a job, me. And I'm telling you, it's because I put this business plan together and I showed that I was ready and I had been preparing and being a student. I had done this other stuff, right? So I went straight into crushing premium seat sales. And so again, for the interview, you got to continue to prepare for the next role today. And if you can't get that back to your current role, try to find little ways to carve that out. And I'll try to get very specific on that. And so I learned a very valuable lesson in Phoenix, okay, within my career. I learned that your boss, especially in sales, this happens all the time, okay? Your boss will go out and get a drink with you, will go out to happy hour with you, but it doesn't mean they're your friend. And I think a lot of times especially when you're young, I was like 24, 25 at the time. So my boss, Shane Donahue, I told Shane to fuck off in an email. And I thought we were boys. I thought it was like, and it was a joke. It's like he said something to me about Jake doing XYZ. I was like, fuck off, Shane, blah, 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 blah. And then like a day later, I got pulled in and I got fired. Number one premium seller in the entire organization, right? The team was not very good. They had Wayne Gretzky as the head coach, so that was helpful, right? I got fired. And I was like, oh my God, how are they going to fire God's gift to sales? I can't believe it. They fired me, right? So that's when I learned a very valuable lesson. Keep your relationships between you and your superior professional. And just know that even if you think that you can get familiar, even if whatever, don't do it. Don't do it. Get like that level, we're friendly, etc. But understand that with a lot of people, and again, just use your own judgment on each leader. But that's what I would suggest. So then I took 6 months. I worked in real estate for a little bit for one of my clients from the Coyotes doing like home buying stuff. I was at 26. I was way too immature to work on myself. All I wanted to do is I'd like sleep till 10 and just play Xbox and then like do a little bit of work. So I wasn't ready to work for myself. And then I got a job at Careerbuilder. So Careerbuilder was just starting to build an office in Phoenix. And I was just starting. And so they were just in the process of building out this office. And so as a part of that, what I realized is I had to go in and do an interview. And again, I sat down with this sales rep that they paired me with, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to crush this place. And so I got the job. And going into the job, again, like here I am God's gift to sales. I think I know everything. And what I did here is I didn't do a very good job of selling out and drinking the Kool-Aid. So somebody in here, Muhammad Awan, he asked about like frameworks, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I had a conversation. I was the second to last person who hadn't sold anything in my entire training class out of 8 people. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, what is happening? Why do I suck? Like, I know I'm good. I've always been good at sales. Like, why isn't it working? And my director pulled me inside, my boss's boss. He said, Jake, why aren't you following the script? I'm like, the script? Evan, I'm God's gift. I don't follow scripts. Scripts are for amateurs. He goes, Jake, let me ask you a question here, okay? Do you think we train 1,000 salespeople on a process that doesn't work? And that moment foundationally changed the trajectory of my career. I had an epiphany. I said, no, probably not. That sounds stupid. Why would you train 1,000 people on a script if it was stupid, right? I said, okay, all right, well, I'll just go to do it. So I sat there, went back, right? Sat there. Okay, great. Hi, John. Blah, 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 blah. Tell me about your top 2 responsibilities at XYZ. In my head, I'm like, that's a terrible question. The guy's like, I do this. I'm like, tell me about your team. I do this. Okay. What are the top 2 priorities in your department? What are the jobs you're having the most difficult time filling, and what jobs are you filling for most frequently? Tell me more. Why? All of a sudden, they start telling me all this information. I'm like, holy shit. Like, whoa. That's when I learned about the discovery process. And then they had a very specific way they described Careerbuilder. And I was like, oh, I read the script. So let's talk about passive versus active job seekers, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Jake. I'm like, whoa, okay. That is when I learned a sales process. And I've done a bunch of posts about this too, that if you're in startup sales today, going to a bigger companies, and just, sports sales is very small orgs, right? Maybe you've got 20, 30 people max in a sales org. Well, that's not true. Some of the NBA teams have like 70, 80, but still they're not process driven. When I went to a big company like Careerbuilder was the number one, they just passed Monster, they're the number one job site in the US. And I learned that sales is a science. I learned that there is a process and a way to move people through the buyer journey. And I would say it's probably most akin to like solution selling with a mix of Challenger before Challenger even existed, about talking about trends and things in the industry. So that is where I learned that a sales process matters. And so my first piece of advice for all of you out there that maybe want to go into leadership, it's this. If you don't have a repeatable process, I will never promote you to leader, because I need you to have a playbook of how to train people in a similar fashion to get them up to speed and performing more effectively. Okay? So again, if you want to go into leadership, you need a playbook. There you go. That's advice number 1 for any of you wanting to go into leadership. And there's a few of you here who are unemployed or have some other like opportunities here. But that's my first advice for anyone wanting to go into leadership. If you don't develop a repeatable sales process, you're never getting promoted, right? And it's also the value of going to a slightly larger company is you can just learn the framework, right? And so then the next promotion, and then I'm going to start jumping into some Q&A. The next promotion I got was literally 2.5 months later. So again, let's lay this up for everyone. Oh, and just so you know, so then I started reading the script. I started doing exactly what my director said. I sold $60,000 in new business the next month and destroyed everybody, right? Because for me, I had all the natural heuristics. Like I read the behavior, I knew psychology, I already had really strong sales techniques. And when you couple that with the process, then that's when I became lethal. That's when I was like, oh my God, if I just do this, execute this process, and then I know how to push people at certain points, like, oh my God, like everything clicked for me. And so in March, so this is in January, okay? In March, my boss left, okay? And I credit Amy. Amy actually taught me a lot in that 3 months about being a better, more professional seller. So she left. I'd been at the company for 4.5 months at the time. They had just opened this office. There were 20 people moved from Chicago that had been at Careerbuilder for years. And so there's an opening for leadership. Luckily, in January, I had another conversation with my director, and I posted about this yesterday, and I think this is really important for all of you to think about. If you are trying to get promoted, don't talk to your boss about it. Talk to your boss's boss about it. Your boss, especially if you're going into leadership, I got to know what his or her expectations are, so then I can match up to those expectations, right? And so I talked to Evan. This is in January, right? I'm having a good month. Evan, he's like, Jake, what are your goals here? I said, my goal is to go into leadership, Evan. Of course. He goes, it's not a goal. I go, what do you mean? Of course going into leadership's a goal. Of course it is. He's like, no, that's not a goal. I go, Evan, going into leadership is my goal. He goes, let me tell you why it's not a goal. Because I control it. I control if you get promoted. I control who gets selected next, not you. A goal has to be something in your control 100%. Next, like, mind-blowing moment in my career, like Evan 2 for 2 in like 2 months in my career. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. I go, okay, well, what do you expect from your next leader? He goes, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. Are you hitting your sales numbers? That's a prerequisite. So for all my friends out there, if you're trying to move into leadership or another role and you're hitting your numbers, guys, that's the bare minimum, right? Like that's like the prereq to get into the class, okay? The next thing is, are you a positive influence on the team? Are you being a mentor? Are you training people? Are you helping people to get better at their role? Number 3, are you hitting your day-to-day activity, right? And that's an interesting one, because a lot of you, and let me tell you what my activity metrics were at Careerbuilder. And I'll tell you kind of the whole thing. We had to hunt no SDRs, hunt your own leads, make your own sales, manage your own accounts. I did do it all. And every day, 100 dials and 2.5 hours of talk time. I was expected to set between like 1.5 to 2 meetings every single day in a patch of like 600 accounts. Okay. So this was not easy. And there's plenty of fake dial shit that I found out, that people were doing. And so I said, okay, that's what Evan wants to see. So I did it. I led our team in activity. It was my goal every single fucking day to not just be the top seller, but to beat everybody in activity, right? I went to my boss. I went to Amy. Hey, Amy, can I do a training on this topic? Yes. Hey, Amy, I did like 2 trainings. So then this open position came up. Amy leaves. So I go to the director. I say, look, here's my resume. Here's what I've done in new business. Here's what my activity is. I'm number 1 in activity. I'm showing that. And here's what here's the trainings I've done. And then guess what else I did, guys? I did a complete market analysis on our territory and found the different bright spot industries. I said, here's what I'm going to do in my first 90 days in this territory. Here's why we're underutilized in Nebraska, and here's why that's not working. Here's why we're underutilized here, and here's how that's going to work. Here's how we're underutilized here, and here's how that's going to work. So I walked in with a plan. I said, here's what I'm going to do. You know what? The person who'd been there 2.5 years walked in. I've been there for 2.5 years. I've got a high quota. Guess who got the job? Me. Right? I got the job because I showed up prepared. I asked my boss what his expectations. If you're in inside sales and you want to go to enterprise, you need to go talk to the enterprise sales leader. What are the things that you need to see from me over the next month, 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 months to be the next person that you pick? And again, every time, guys, the trend early in my career, you can see it, is I always brought a business plan to the interview, and I got 100% of the jobs. 100%. If you are showing up to job interviews and you're not bringing a plan, then you're just like everybody else. So that is my number 1 piece of advice, especially for those of you in the first, let's call it 10 years of your career. That's what you have to do. Guess what? Then from Careerbuilder, I was there for almost 4 years. Got a call from a recruiter about Glassdoor. Glassdoor reached out. I was 30 years old at the time. About, hey, we need our first sales leader. Said, okay, I get this space. I know the space super, super well. And so I could take the playbook that I had learned at Careerbuilder, right? I could take all the things I'd learned. Actually, hold on. I'll rewind a second just to give you another learning here. So I was in that leadership role at Careerbuilder for 2.5 years. I was the number 1 team to quota 2 years in a row. The entire company. We had the Pacific Northwest for our territory. What happened is this: at about the 2-year mark, 2.5 year mark, I started to look at what's my next leadership promotion. And it's like, oh, my team has already closed 6-figure deals. Is moving into there's a field team, and then there's a level in between, a strategic team. So I would have moved into leadership there. And I was like, am I going to really learn anything? Am I really going to grow? I make more money, all that. But the reps, all my reps were getting promoted into those teams. So I started to think, I was like, what's my gap? What's my hole? I was like, enterprise sales. My teams close 1 6-figure deal and a bunch of big 5 figures. How am I at 29, 30 years old going to go tell some grown-ass man or woman who's 45 or 50 how to close deals if I haven't done it? So I made the conscious decision to go back in the field, to leave the cushy life to go into the enterprise world. So I moved to San Francisco from Phoenix and joined an enterprise team there on the front lines, right? Then within 6 months, I got promoted to national account executive. Out of 79 national account executives, I was the youngest national account executive at 29. Why? Guys, it's the same formula over and over and over again. I was prepared. I started thinking about doing enterprise sales 9 months before I ever did it. So I started to learn what these complex deals. When my reps were working complex deals in my group, I started to get involved and understand what that looked like. So when I came into the enterprise group, I was ready to hit the ground running. And that's a consistent theme. Same thing for Glassdoor, right? So then I get a call, literally, I was probably 29, going on 30 at the time. I get a call about this opportunity. And what had I done? Oh, by the way, at that time, Careerbuilder also agreed to pay for me to get my MBA. And it's like, what does a frontline sales leader need with an MBA? The reason I got my MBA is I realized I didn't learn shit in undergrad. I was just trying to check a box. So when Careerbuilder rolled out this plan that if you apply, you had to apply for the program, they just picked a few people each quarter or each half year, that they would pay for 100% of your MBA. And I was like, you know what, man, I need to learn. Like like if I want to be this next step, like I actually got to fucking go back and learn like a P&L and how to do forecasting and economics and all this stuff. So I went back and got my MBA while I was managing team, while I was doing all this stuff. So then when Glassdoor opportunity came around, right? Imagine this. I mean, Glassdoor, the CEO, Robert Homan. Robert is a Stanford MS, Stanford undergrad, Stanford MS. This dude is fucking genius level, right? Programmer. And if you just saw a kid who graduated from Missouri State and was successful at leadership and had an enterprise, I don't know. I don't know if I would have got the interview or not. I know the MBA probably helped. So again, I was able to show up for that job. And this is a story I don't tell too often. Hold on. All right, I'm back. So a story I don't tell too often is, so that offer for Glassdoor. So I got in, I was the last, they'd already talked to a bunch of candidates. I was kind of like the very last person of this, like who they had in the mix. I got the job. They sent me an offer letter. It had a person's name on it. They pulled the offer from this guy. And this guy, guys, was literally almost 18 years older than me, right? Well, how did I get the job? Oh, guys, do I need to tell you how I got the job? I brought a business plan, right? Like, guys, it's the same thing over and over again, okay? You got to prepare for those next steps ahead of time. These opportunities don't just get presented. And it's why you keep having to take lateral move to lateral move, is you're expecting someone to take a bet or a gamble on you and give you that opportunity. That's not how your career works. You have to take those opportunities. If I'm an SDR, I'm going to go to my boss's boss and I'm going to say, look, John, I want to start to take small discovery calls. I'm not going to be able to be an amazing seller for you. So here's my suggestion. Can I take 1 in every 5 calls and only that look like this so I can start to up-level my skills? Most bosses are going to say that's fine. So again, all of you have to think about that. Are you getting the skills for the next job in the current job you're in? If you are not, it's why you're not getting the promotion. It's why you're not getting picked for the next step. So I can keep going on and on about this shit, guys. But okay, let me go in here. We've got some questions. Oh, Sahil Mansuri, Jake's dropping hot fire. You know it, man. I'm always dropping fucking hot fire here. All right, let me go to some questions here. Shelby or Kara, are you guys dropping them in the sheet? I didn't pull up the sheet. That's my fault here. Just let me know. Just text me and let me know if you're dropping all the questions in the sheet. If not, I'm just going to try to just go through. Okay, so I'll just take this one. Benjamin Roach, getting burned out in the startup world. Best advice for making a transition into traditional cooperative world. Okay, thanks, Kara. Kara, actually do me a favor. We text me the link and I'm just going to pull it up on my phone here too. Look at that. She's already on it. She's like, Jake, you don't need to tell me. I already did it. Thank you, Kara. So the thing is this, Ben, you might have to take a step back. And I think your careers are long, guys. They're long. And so don't worry about it. Let's say if you're going to make a career transition, and I'll tell you another thing that I did. I never took a job for more money. Right? I saw plenty of reps that should have went into leadership, should have went into enterprise sales, but they knew that there was going to be a long haul to get up to speed to making the money they were in their current role. And look, if you need the money, there's nothing wrong with that. You got to do what you got to do. I don't know your life situation. I'm not going to judge it. You got to do what you got to do. But if you can, never, ever, ever take a job for money. Take it for increased responsibility, right? Now, you don't want to go too far and then you fail, but take it for that next step in your career. So my advice for you, Ben, if you're getting a little burnt out, the very first thing I would do is have a conversation with my boss. I'm actually shocked, and it happens to me as a CEO. People leave for reasons that had they had one conversation, their whole 6 months, that the 6 months they were thinking about it could have been completely different. I think so many people are nervous that if they talk to their boss about wanting something different, that they're going to get fired. And I'm telling you, most people inherently are not assholes. Most people do not have it. And guys, most people don't have it out for you. Okay. Like most people aren't here to get you, right? Like everyone wants to win. And so I would be going to my boss and talking to them about it. I say, hey, look, here's where I'm at. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I think I'm great at. And here's the data that supports that. So that would be my first thing I'd do, Ben, is I talk to my current boss. Number two is that, look, I would take a step back. So if you want to transition into more of like a corporate world, then I would look at maybe here's where I'm at. Maybe I've got to take a little bit of a lateral move or a little bit of this because I'm called a director in my current role, but really I'm like a senior account executive. Then, maybe your title deflates to go to here, but the role is the same. So that's my advice, is to do that. Jennifer Moore's got a really killer one. How do I overcome? You're too experienced for this role. You will be underpaid. I totally believe this one. That actually, Jennifer, that happened to me at Careerbuilder. I almost didn't get hired at Careerbuilder because I thought I had too much experience for it. And obviously, I told you about everything that happened, so I thank God that they did hire me. I think what you have to do, because here's what happens. When people get more experience, and I can tell you this because I've hired plenty of people with 20 years of experience and 25 and whatever years of experience. Everyone talks a big game about wanting to roll their sleeves up and get dirty. About, I still like to get in the trenches and I want to do this stuff. And then they get in the role and they don't do it. So that's Jennifer, that's what you're really hearing, is you're hearing a scar tissue from previous candidates where people have said to them they've been burned basically by people with too much experience, to put it in perspective for you. Okay. And so that is what I would say is my biggest piece of advice there, is to help them to understand what you've actually done that is in the trenches and the why you like to get involved. Don't just say it. Just help them to understand, I want this role and here's what I'm going to do in it. This is why I want it. Let me tell you my story. So I would try to help people get over that perception. Hey, look, I know it may appear I'm more experienced. Let me tell you why this is actually the right role for me. Boom, boom, boom. And so I think that's it. You just need to address it head on. So I hope that helps. All right, let's see. Some people getting promoted to VP. It just took Ben's question. I thought let me just see here if I can go find. There was a question I liked on here. That was from someone about getting promoted as a young female. I'm going to try to, here it is. Amira Ashori, hopefully I pronounced that right. How do I stand out as a young-ish female when surrounded by older, dominant, loud men, right? How to ensure I get credit and recognition for my work rather than everyone else assuming the men did it. Okay, this is a very real thing, okay? I've had a lot of conversations with individuals over the last, I feel like 2 or 3 weeks in particular, about both representation in sales, especially sales leadership. And again, it's at the front lines, it's fairly equal, right? Tech sales still heavier men, but as you go up, the amount of men and the amount of non-white sales leaders is pretty pathetic. And so I can tell you it's something that I'm passionate about and active, and I posted about it, that it's the issue is it's how you grow up. And so me, I grew up from other white sales leaders. As a white sales leader, I saw how they behaved, and I was like, well, you gotta be loud and you're staying out till 2 a.m. drinking. And I posted about this. I had a boss, I was 25, 26, and he made all of us believe that the goal is to be a functioning alcoholic. And we thought it was cool. We're like, this guy stays out and does this, and over time, you're like, no, it's not a very good goal. That's actually a really shitty goal. So here's what here would be my advice for you is, Amira, again, you can't hope that someone's going to pick you. You can't hope that someone is going to magically see through everything and say, oh, she actually did it. And I think you have to be okay with this. You have to be okay with talking to people about the work that you're doing and risk that sometimes people might see you as looking for credit, as opposed to lining up in advance, like, hey, this was a project, was my contribution, and here was the outcome. And you may be getting ahead of some of your leaders and you proactively setting up time with different people to talk about it. That would be the Jake way to handle this, is that I would not, again, it's a difference between a systemic problem and a specific problem that maybe happened once or twice. If the problem is systemic, right, and the issue for you is that, this keeps happening, you have to try to do something about it. And sometimes that means you might have to try 2 times or 3 times or 4 times, because the first time someone might not hear it. They might not know. Then the second time they might hear it. The third time they might really hear it. So my advice to you is to call it out. Is I would say, hey, with these last 2 projects, and again, if you want to talk to your boss first, here's kind of the lay of the land. Like, it's really important to me. I want to continue to grow as a professional. What are the opportunities you think that I can have to talk about my work to your boss and to others? So I would try to make them a part as my ally in helping to shepherd me there. But you don't need to be loud. You don't need to be dominant. But I think a lot of times people mistake dominant and loud for and almost get it mixed up with confident. You do need to be confident, and you do need to advocate for yourself. And hopefully you work for companies where they will make it easier to advocate for you and pull you in. But at the same time, don't rely on it. Don't rely on it. And they're probably, like I said before, they're not. A lot of this is unconscious bias. They might not even be doing it on purpose. And that's always the intention, at least the thought that I have, is this person doesn't know what they're doing. They're not purposely doing anything, And so that's my advice there. And that's really for anyone, young woman, anybody who's nervous about speaking out. That's how I would think about that one. Okay, next set of questions here. We've got a lot rolling in. Keep them coming, guys. I'm actively looking for an outside sales position working in Northeast Ohio. Not a lot of activity for sales positions being posted on the big boards. Have focused on networking to gain a job versus applying online. Yep, that's the right move. Yep. Have focused lately on reaching out to 2nd and 3rd degrees. Yep. Something in common, college. All I've asked is to chat and learn more about their company. Little responses after 3 weeks. Okay. So let me tell you, if I was interviewing right now in Northeastern Ohio for an outside sales role, the first thing that I would start to realize is there are actually a lot of companies that are hiring right now. Now, the good part about it is because of COVID, a lot of these companies, guys, are hiring from all over. They might be based in San Francisco or New York or Florida or Texas or wherever. So the first thing I would do is I'd massively expand my job search. I would not look for people that have a job posting right there. I can tell you there's a whole bunch of people right now that are looking to continue to scale sales remote. So I would do that. The second thing is it goes back to my business plan concept, right? And so I hope that this resonates with you, Greg. And thank you, Greg, for the question, is going back to the business plan, okay, is I would show that hiring manager the research that I did on their company and their market. Actually, hold on a second. I've got a link. I'm going to drop this link in both Google, or both in Zoom and in LinkedIn. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this link up that just talks about industries that are doing well right now, which is where I would be spending my time. Right? Not industries that are getting, absolutely smoked. Morgan Ingram actually shared this with me, and I thought it was pretty cool. So vendor COVID subpending data. Yeah, here you go. Actually, here, this one. So I'm going to drop this in the Zoom chat for all of you. It's in the chat for all my Zoom folks. And it is, let's see, panelists and attendees. Bam. And then, Kara, can you copy and paste that into if you don't mind, the LinkedIn comments? I can only see the comments. I'm in StreamYard. Thank you. So where was I going? Oh, Northeast Ohio, getting a job. Okay. So I would show them that I did research, right? My DM wouldn't be, hey, we both went to Clemson. We both went to blah. We did this. It would be like, hey, John, I've researched 7 other companies in the blah, blah, blah sector. Where I think you differentiate is blah, 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 blah. Where I think I can add value is specifically around this and this. It'd be great to set up time to talk about how I can do it. And guess what? It's going to take you 20 minutes to write that message, right? You're going to do a little research, but I would follow that formula. Hey, I've looked at, I like this sector you're in, Here are the 3 or 4 other companies I looked at. You can also go, if you're looking in the software space, you can go to G2, Just go to g2.com, and then you can just do a comparison, and it'll tell you where people have rated them. Hey, hi, John. I want you guys to play this out here. Hey, John. I've researched your company and your 6 top companies on G2. It sounds like consistently you guys are doing extremely well here. That lines up exactly with where I've been successful. The other part is I've seen that they outperform your software here and here. And that is also one of my biggest strengths. I think I can be extremely successful there. This is why let's set up time to meet. And then I would copy that message and I would send it to 3 or 4 different sales leaders. I'm telling you, you will get a call back. But again, show me that you know my business. Why do you guys think I wrote 4 business plans early in my career and got every single fucking one of those jobs? Because people want to know that you give a shit, that you actually want a sales job and you've actually thought about what it takes to be successful. So that is what I would do. All right, LinkedIn user. I am a first-year rep. I've hit my quota for 2020 and I'm the #1 on my team currently. What other ammunition do I need in hand to negotiate double my salary for next year? Oh, man. Well, I'm going to teach you. I'm just going to tell you something. For all my friends in sales, you are all expendable. And that sucks to hear. And it sucks to hear because it's fucking true. And I've been the top seller, top sales leader. And if you're a pain in the ass, they'll fire your ass and they'll deal with it. And guess what? The world moves on, right? Right? Sahil was there whenever I left Glassdoor, and the company didn't just stop. I mean, now granted, I think it was probably a setback because I left, but that's the thing to understand is if you're a first-year rep, you've hit quota once, you got to build a little more of a track record. And again, my real question is how repeatable is it? And do you just want to stay in the same sales role? Or I would be thinking about this a little bit different for you is let's say if you're selling a mid-market sale or an SMB sale, I would be thinking about for you, what are the skills you're learning to now learn maybe enterprise sales? Or if you want to go into leadership, what are the leadership skills you're learning? So for me, again, I'm thinking about more responsibility. I'm never thinking about more money, especially when I was young, 23, 24, 25. When I was 23, my first job with the raise out of college, my gross pay was $21,000. My take home was $14,000. I ate frozen dinners and lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Largo, Florida for a year and a half. Well, about a year. Then I moved into St. Pete. The next year, I made 40, right? So I think also, don't get hung up on just, am I going to make double my money? If you need the money, you've got family situation, personal, then I get it. And if you said, Jake, I need the money, I need to make it, what I would be doing is I would put together the business case. I would say, look, here's my repeatable process. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Not here's what I did, reward me. Here's what I'm going to do for you next year. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Because of that, here's where I'd like my compensation to be. Right? And if after 3 months we're not hitting this mutually, then we can have a conversation the other way. So always give to get. Don't just ask. Don't walk over with your hand out. Okay? All right. Next question up. And that goes for all of you. Don't walk in, and again, because I did that. So I didn't tell this part of the story. So in Tampa, right before I left to go to Phoenix. Oh God, this is a terrible one. So I went into we got a brand new VP from the Golden State Warriors. Okay, keep in mind, here I am. I'm on the sales floor. I'm God's gift, right? I'm #1 on the team, crushing all these things. I'm doing great. So I'm like, this guy joins. He's been there for a week. He hasn't come down and addressed us. He hasn't talked to me. I'm like, why hasn't he came down and talked to me yet? So my poor boss, Clark Beacom, shout out to Clark. Clark's actually here in Austin now. He's running Austin's FC sales team. He's a CRO. I go to Clark, my boss. I go, Clark, I want to meet with, I can't even remember guy. Let's call him Jason. And he's definitely a Jason or a Steve or some shit. And I was like, I want to talk to Jason. He says, okay. And the terror in Clark's mind at that time was real. I mean, it should have been. So we set up a meeting and I go into the VP. And this reminds me of you, LinkedIn user, first year rep. And because you might do some shit like this too. I was like, so Jason, tell me what you're all about, man. Like, what are your plans here? This guy, and it's, older white dude. He's just like, who the fuck is this kid in my office? And he's like, well, let me tell you what I'm planning, Jake. And like immediately, the dude just hated me. So just be careful when you're going that first year to second year, you're asking for that promotion. My boss looked at me. I remember looking at the corner of my eye at Clark. And he's just looking like, oh, fuck, Jake, why'd you say that? So anyway, there you go. All right, keep the questions coming. Keep them coming in here, guys. These are great. These are really, really great. All right, so let's go into some other ones. Good, glad some people are getting some good feedback here. I'm going to take this one. Tim Gallagher talked about the jump from VP to CRO. And then I'll talk a little about the jump from maybe director to VP too. So, man, it's really hard working at sales in sales leadership at a startup. And I'll tell you, what I really, really struggled with is I'm a really good salesperson. I know that on the spectrum, I'm like top 5%. I know how to close massive $4 million plus deals. I also love I'm weird. I like it all, right? But and then I think on the frontline leadership, I was also strong, right? I knew how to develop people. I knew like my teams at Careerbuilder over those 2 years had the most people promoted. Like I got that. But when you make the move to director, you've got to start to continue to remove yourself out of it. And so my advice to you, Tim, as you're going from VP to CRO is realize you've got to stop loving the sale. You can still love it, but you are there to build a machine and build a repeatable process. And I think it's so hard in startup world where the goals and the pressures are so real and you have people ramping to want to jump in and still be an enterprise sales director and help with the deals and do those things. But as you move specifically from VP to CRO, you've got to, and again, it goes about the skills. Like, so Tim, if I was at my current company, I would go to my CRO and say, look, in the next 4 years, I want to be a CRO. And what I'd love to be able to do is sit down monthly, and when you do your budgeting, when you do your forecasting, when you do your hiring plan, I'd love to just ride shotgun. Would that be cool with you? Can I ride shotgun with you to learn about that? Again, start to prepare now. And if my CRO wasn't down, I'd go ping a network of CROs and say, hey, I want to be your protege. And I'm telling you, sales leaders love to give back. So Tim, that's what I would do, right? Have the conversation, start to get those skills today. All right, this question is from Chris Nichols, being promoted to VP of marketing, transition from a singular focus, to creating change as his brand new role in the organization. So Chris, coming in new to a leadership role, senior leadership role, okay? I'm gonna tell you what not to do, which is what I did too. So most of what I can tell you is from some stupid thing I did that was probably like ego related or pride or ego related mistakes. So the most important thing that you can do in your first 15 to 30 days is nothing. Make no changes. Instead, go meet with everybody. If there's some small quick wins, knock them down just to keep people pacified. Go meet with the CFO. Go meet with the COO. Go meet with the VP. Go meet with the CRO. Go meet with the head of ops. Go meet with every department and understand what their needs are for marketing. How do they view marketing? What would they like to see, etc. Make friends with the rest of the executive team. That's number one. Number two, if I was joining as a VP of marketing, I would try to listen in my first 60 days to 40 customer calls, right? That is the step that most marketing leaders and candidly sales leaders skip. They assume because they came from the industry or whatever it is that they know best, and then they wonder why they don't get up to speed faster. So that's what I would do. If I was going to start a new executive role today, shut down Scaled, go join as a CRO, which would never happen. That's what I would do. I'd go make friends with all the executives. I'd spend time building relationship capital with them and my frontline managers, and also getting to know the team, doing lunches, etc. And then I would start to talk to customers. So that's my advice for you, my friends. Okay, next up. All right. This is a good one. Phineas, what's up, Phineas? Hope you're doing great, my friend. Phineas says, how do you succeed in sales, the pre-market fit enterprise startup, product market fit startup? Okay, well, here's what I'll tell you. Until you're doing, what's the number I want to pick here? I'm going to call it 15 million. Until you're doing 15 million in revenue, you do not have product market fit. And a lot of people, Jake, what do you mean? We're doing 5 million. That means there's a great book. I recommend every salesperson read this book. I read this book in 2012. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's called Crossing the Chasm. Okay. And what it does, it tells you about these customer types. And it still holds true today. The book's old. It keeps getting revised. It's a great book. Crossing the Chasm, Jeff Moore. I think, Jeff Moore is the guy's name. If I'm right, comment yes, Jeff Moore. If I'm wrong, comment Jake. It's Crossing the Chasm. It talks about early adopters, innovators, are this small group of people. Early adopters are slightly larger, and then there's a chasm to get to the early majority, late majority, and laggards, okay? This chasm is where startups go to die because they think they have product market fit because they've been selling to innovators for too long. So that would be my first question is don't worry. A lot of people don't have product market fit. They just think they do, okay? Because you're just selling to the innovators and the early adopters. You don't have product market fit until you're selling to the early majority, just as an FYI. If I was going into sales here, I would learn, and this is what I think a lot of salespeople don't know. I would learn my competition inside and out, right? And not to talk shit about them. I need to know their vulnerabilities. And so I'd ask customers, great. Okay, so you're using Indeed. So what do you love about Indeed? Oh, wow, that's great. Oh, man, Indeed's fantastic. Okay, all right, what would you like to see different? Okay, cool. All right, why is that so important to you that you want to see it different? You said all this great stuff. Why is that important? And then I would keep perfecting my pitch to where then my pitch systematically retrained their brain to think that these variables were more important, not these, and this is like our unique differentiator. So that's it. If I was working at a really early stage company, I would start to reverse engineer the areas of opportunity with things that they're already doing or the competition to then pivot their thoughts to being like, these things are actually more important. I use a lot of third-party stats to do that, Harvard Business Review, Forrester, Gartner, as a part of that. So that's what I do there, my friends. Did anybody comment? Was it Jeff Moore? Anyone tell me? It was Jeff Moore? Crossing the chasm. Okay, someone dropped in there. Taylor Scotto. I appreciate you, my man. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take this one. John Gavin. John Gavin has, I'm in a Big Four audit, and about to finish my first year, and it's not for me. I'm trying to shift to a more sales-oriented role. Do you have any good ways of selling audit skills that might not appear transferable in a sales skill? Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't know, I'd never heard the term consultative selling when I was kind of growing up. But what I realized is like I wasn't probably naturally, I probably learned the techniques on how to be consultative. But I think, look, an audit, when you're doing an audit, you're going in and just asking very open-ended questions. That skill is super applicable to sales. When I do a discovery process, I have no agenda. I'm just trying to understand facts. Who is this individual I'm talking to and how do they fit into their organization? If I understand that, I know who needs to be involved in the future so I can drive momentum later. If you're not asking what the person that you're meeting with does and what their team looks like, you can't drive momentum down the road. That's one, just discovery pro tip. Number two, business strategy for the next 2 quarters. What are they working on? What's top of mind for the business? Then what are they tactically doing to get there that I might compete against? That is very much like an audit. And then I just take those facts. Okay, here's this person. These are their goals. Okay, like this may not be a priority right now. Like it's not like, look, it sounds like what you need to do is this. I mean, I would just give people advice. I'm like, look, that's not what we do, but here's how I've seen other people do it. You might want to think about these 3 things. Here's where I think we can help you. Like the disqualify to qualify you for a smaller chunk of business is also a sales strategy, and it works phenomenally. But I think there's a lot of transferable skills from audit to sales all day long. So, all right. Next question. Guys, the questions are rolling in. I love this. Team, let's do a whole video on this. So the questions that I don't get to today, let's just grab all these, and I'm just going to do like a career advice, just like hodgepodge here. I like this one. I really like this one. Luke Shaw. What's up, Luke? Do I need other options when negotiating my comp agreement for the next year? Oh, God. It doesn't hurt to do research. You know, you can use Glassdoor, you can use salary.com. There's some others free. Man, I'd love to hear what the audience thinks about this. Do you think you go out and get competing offers? My gut says that's going to piss off 85% of managers are going to get pissed at you. So again, it goes back to that advice that I'd given that one gentleman before. And here's the advice that I would give that to you first. What I would at least start with is to say, here's what I'm going to be doing differently, like as a part of my role, of what I want my role to be. Based on that, this is where I think we should be. So that I would start there. Again, it goes back to, what do I do with everything, guys? When I walk into a scenario, whether it's a sales meeting or an interview, I bring the business case, right? So I think I would put together that business case first and then talk about why. Just look, 1 + 1 = 2. And that 2 is this. So are we aligned here? And try to create a logical argument around why it should be that way versus some other way. So that's my advice, everyone. for that. I'm a much bigger fan. I think salary negotiations go a lot more when you bring the business case and behind the I think I'm worth more because I'm the top seller. Guys, being the top seller, that's why you're getting paid bonuses. You're being paid commission and bonuses to be the top seller. That's not a reason to get promoted. That's not a reason to make a higher base. I'm giving you the equivalent of a higher base and a bonus in your normal commission. So I think a lot of you need to, I would also think about changing your perspective on what that looks like. So, all right, I got time for one more question here. And then again, I want to really thank everyone for tuning in. We've got a ton of engagement here of people diving into this. A lot of folks on Zoom, a lot of people, a lot of people on LinkedIn as well too. So I really appreciate all of you joining in, asking questions. Obviously, this is a topic I know that whether you're unemployed, you're looking for a job, whether you're trying to get that next promotion, I know these are all things that hopefully you're going to be able to take back. You're going to be able to use in real time, as you're growing and you're scaling. So last question, who's it going to be? All right. I think I kind of took that one about being too cocky. Again, bring the business case, Phineas. That's my focus there. Okay, let's talk. I'll take this one. So this is for my managers out there. This is from Taylor Scotto. What's up, Taylor? What are some focus points you share with managers who perhaps struggle to assert themselves or are looking to gain more clout with the executive team? Okay. So, again, I've given similar, pieces of advice. Well, Taylor said, don't let it in. Taylor, you're lucky. I'm sneaking in the last question. It's all you, brother. So, again, guys, DM me. If you guys got specific questions, just DM me on LinkedIn. It's pretty simple. I'm pretty easy to find. And like I said, I'm going to try to maybe we'll do a little hodgepodge here. Also, before we end and before you guys bounce, make sure to tune in on this Friday. I'm doing a 100-minute LinkedIn Live weekly recap. It's our 100th weekly recap. I've done 100 of these things. I've been on a scooter filming when the camera guy had the camera out of the back of a truck. I've jumped benches. I've ridden and wrecked scooters. Done a lot of stuff in 100 of these. So tune in on Friday. The link is in the comments. We're going to drop that in right now. Please sign up. It's going to be ridiculous. So basically the format is we pulled a bunch of clips. Allie Ray from my team is just going to start to play them. I'm going to give my reaction to them, talk about what happened, talk about trends, how has my thinking evolved over the last 2 years. So it's going to be something that's really, really special. And, all of you take the time out, to join on these Mondays, join on Friday. It's going to be equally as, important. So we'll drop those links in LinkedIn and we'll drop those links in Zoom. So going back to Taylor's question about looking to gain more clout with the exec team, it goes back to what I've talked about a few times. What's important to them? Have you talked to your exec team? What are the things that you're looking for, in XYZ? Like, hey, John, look, I'm trying to be where you're at in 4 years. What do you feel are the top 2 skills when you made the transition from X to Y? And again, maybe you look outside your organization as well, too. Maybe you look outside to somewhere else. But that is what I would do. You guys can hear the theme. I have no problem asking challenging authority or asking difficult questions. But I think if you don't know what your executive team views as clout, because maybe you already have it, you don't realize it. Maybe the things you're doing, you're just not being vocal enough. So that would be what I would do, Taylor, is I would think about that. I would think about the what do you call it? The way that you're doing that, the way that you're talking to them. I would anchor to what's important to them. So there we go. The team just dropped the live in the recap. So make sure, guys, click that link before we shut down here on the Zoom. Before we shut down, click that link. Go sign up this Friday. It's going to be fun. It's Friday. My birthday is on Thursday. I'm turning 40 years old. So it's like there's a lot of things going on. The big 40. You can tell that's why I've got like all the white in the beard now. And this, by the way, this took like 2 weeks. I can't grow facial hair for shit, but I thought, hey, why not? So that's my advice, Taylor. Go have the conversation. Go talk about what they think is clout. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great start to your week. I hope you guys had a ton of takeaways. Do me a favor, share this on LinkedIn. Share some of your takeaways on LinkedIn. Share what you've learned. Give back. That's my one ask. And hope you all have an amazing rest of your week. Take care.